Can we go to Saudi Arabia? Okay, all right. The Secretary will leave this evening for a trip to Saudi Arabia. His first stop will be in Jeddah. We'll have meetings with Saudi government officials to discuss a range of bilateral and regional issues.
A former member of the 9/11 Commission, John Lemon, said the Commission had been aware of at least 5 Saudi government officials who were strongly suspected of involvement in the terrorist support network. He said that the 9/11 investigation was terminated before all the relevant leads were able to be investigated. Well, I know that U.S. officials usually cite the 9/11 Commission report, which says that there is no evidence that the Saudi government as an institution or senior Saudi officials were involved, had anything to do with the 9/11 attacks. But what about lower level Saudi officials? Can you say the same about lower level Saudi officials?
Well, our position hasn't changed in terms of our view of any official high-level Saudi involvement. No, there's been no change. No change in our view on that. There's a process, that's underway right now to consider those 28 pages, which, as I know, is what gets to this and determine how much, if any, of those documents can be declassified and released. There's a process for this. I'm going to refer you to Director Clapper's office for an update on where it stands. All of the work, including the contents of the 28 pages, fed into 9/11, their commission's work. And I'll say it again, we believe that that work, the 9/11 Commission's work, provided a definitive statement about the nature of support that came from Saudi Arabia and other countries with respect to al-Qaeda financing. Obviously, it did not determine that the Saudi government had any intent to support al-Qaeda. So our position hasn't changed on that.
Okay, can you say with certainty that no Saudi government resources were used to help the 9/11
I would point you
hijackers?
back to what the 9/11 Commission's work found, which we believe is still relevant today. That's what I'd point you back to.
Well,
Go ahead,
in
Leslie.
March, actually, I had one more. In March, Iran was ordered by a U.S. judge to pay over $10 billion to families of 9/11 victims. Do you believe that Iran had more to do with the 9/11 attacks than Saudi Arabia did?
I would point you, there's a long history here in terms of what happened on 9/11. It's all available publicly, and we fully support the work of the 9/11 Commission. I'd point you to that work. It's very clear. It's all laid out for you right there. I don't really believe that it's a valuable use of our time here today to relitigate all that history. We fully support the work done by the 9/11 Commission, and it's been very clear about the responsibilities.
Recently, Saudi Arabia told the Obama administration and members of Congress that it will sell off hundreds of billions of dollars worth of its U.S. assets if Congress passes a bill that would allow the Saudi government to be held responsible in U.S. courts for any role in the 9/11 attacks. Do you see it as extortion?
We've also talked about this many times here in the briefing room. I don't really want to revisit it all again. We've talked about this. We've responded to it. As I said, we remain committed to assisting the families of all the 9/11 victims. We share in the grief that they've had to endure. We do have concerns about this bill specifically, and the Secretary testified that, specifically with the precedent that it could set going forward for us in other places. So we've made very clear our own concerns about this bill. But other than that, again, we've reacted to this. We've talked about this before. I don't have anything more to add. Ali?